First, I want to get into the Ari McDonald incident, okay? So we had a little scare last night looking at what happened with her. It looked like she left the game early after an injury to that leg. Let's go ahead and take a look at what happened. So, just to kind of dodge copyright, I don't know if I get it or not, but this is her laying the ball up here, okay? And I believe that's Mo Billings defending her, but she comes down on the leg right there, boom, kind of hot skip, and, she's off the scene now.
Watch the film closely and you'll see that the basketball itself is not the issue. Aaliyah Boston's patience in the post, the way she seals defenders and waits for the right moment to move. That's elite-level execution. Chelsea Gray scoring 35 points as if she's playing a video game on the easiest difficulty setting. The chemistry between Kelsey Plum and Boston flashing potential that could absolutely translate back to the WNBA. This is not exhibition basketball. The intensity is real. The competition is legitimate. These players are playing hard, and the skill level is exactly what you'd expect from the best women's basketball players in the world. But sustainability has never been just about product quality. It's about economics, and that's where the uncertainty lives. Unrivaled is backed by wealthy investors willing to absorb losses in the short term. That's normal for startups, but eventually revenue has to justify expenses. Those expenses are substantial. Player salaries averaging over $200,000 for roughly 8 weeks of competition. Broadcast production costs, marketing campaigns, facility expenses, even with a single venue. These numbers add up quickly. The real question isn't whether Unrivaled can survive year 1. It clearly can. The real test comes in year 5, when novelty fades and investors expect returns instead of headlines. At that point, belief won't be enough. The math has to work, and that's the distinction being ignored in many public conversations. Early survival is not the same as long-term sustainability. Until Unrivaled proves it can generate consistent, scalable revenue, it remains an experiment, not a blueprint.
Yeah, well, our deadline is coming up right now in a couple of days, and I think you've just heard a lot of chatter about, what we're asking for is not sustainable for the business, and being on this side with Unrivaled, I know what it takes to run a sustainable business, so I think if they can't find a model that makes it happen, they need to put people in place who can, because we've proven that it is possible, there is a way, and we're thriving in that. And so I do think a deal's going to get done, but we're standing firm in what we believe in. We're not going to back down, and we can't take less. The sport has just grown too much. It would be a disservice to the people who came before us. So
Part 1. That awkward landing instantly sent a wave of panic through Indiana Fever fans. When Erica McDonald came down on Maya Haling's closeout, you could tell right away something wasn't right. She signaled to the bench almost immediately, clearly uncomfortable, forced herself through a free throw, and then headed straight to the locker room. For a player with a history of injuries, especially lower body issues, moments like that are never taken lightly. Ankles, knees, and feet are everything in basketball, and even a minor tweak can linger far longer than expected. Thankfully, McDonald eased concerns later that night. Roughly 9 hours after the incident, she posted an update confirming it was only a scare and that she was fine. No structural damage, no extended absence. From an individual standpoint, that was the best possible outcome. But zooming out, that brief moment highlighted something much bigger than one player's health. It exposed how fragile Unrivaled's inaugural season really is. This league is operating on a razor-thin margin. The 3-on-3 format is fast, physical, and compressed, with minimal recovery time between games. There are fewer players, no deep benches, and far less room to absorb injuries. One major injury to a headline player wouldn't just affect a single game or team. It could fundamentally alter public perception of the league's credibility and long-term viability. Unlike established leagues with decades of infrastructure, Unrivaled doesn't yet have the cushion to weather setbacks quietly. Every incident becomes a storyline. Every injury sparks debate about player safety, scheduling, and whether the league is pushing its athletes too hard too fast. That ankle roll wasn't just a basketball moment. It was a reminder that this entire operation is still in its infancy. And that context matters, because within hours of that scare, a statement surfaced online that completely took over the conversation. A statement that didn't just comment on Unrivaled, but directly tied its existence to the WNBA's ongoing labor negotiations. That's where things escalated from basketball analysis to something far more consequential.
So that's basically what Fee had to say about the WNBA and Unrivaled, comparing the two. And look, y'all know I support and advocate Unrivaled. I advocate for these women to be paid. I want them to get everything that they want. I want everything that they want to come into fruition. But at the end of the day, it's kind of hard to say that Unrivaled is sustainable. You only really had 1 year. You know what I'm saying? So And then comparing it to the WNBA, the WNBA has 13 arenas, 13 owners that they have to deal with, traveling, right? I think Unrivaled is more of a convenient league. Nobody is traveling. Everybody is in one state, one arena. And not to say that that's easy to do. What they're doing is amazing. And I think the numbers came up last year where they were almost breaking even. And that's pretty good for your first year. Almost breaking even on your first year, that's pretty good. All right. So I give them kudos, man. Credit to you all, hustling.
Kelsey Mitchell's Unrivaled debut was a reminder of how different this format truly is. 1 for 13 from the field. 1 for 4 from 3. Not the performance you wanted, but also not shocking. The transition from 5-on-5 to 3-on-3 is brutal. The spacing is tighter. The pace is relentless. There's no bench to sit on while you work through a cold stretch. Mitchell will adjust. Her talent is undeniable. But that adjustment period highlights a bigger truth. 3-on-3 basketball is a fundamentally different product. Some fans love it. The speed, the constant action, the weight of every possession. Others don't. Many fans prefer traditional basketball. They want full team rotations, complex defensive schemes, and the strategic layers that only exist in 5-on-5 play. That preference isn't wrong, it's just different. And it matters when you're talking about audience size. If Unrivaled is serving a niche segment rather than the broader WNBA fan base, that directly impacts revenue potential. A smaller audience means fewer ticket sales, lower media value, and tighter margins. And that circles right back to the core question. Can a league with a narrower appeal sustainably pay 30 players more than $200,000 each? Maybe, but it's far from guaranteed. And until that answer is proven with data, not optimism, it's risky to treat Unrivaled as a financial benchmark for the WNBA. That's the heart of the issue. Not whether Unrivaled is exciting, not whether players deserve more, but whether the model being used as proof can actually stand the test of time.
All I want is no. I actually advocate for these women. I watch Unrivaled. I support Unrivaled. It's nothing like I'm trying to just push them so Caitlin Clark can play. I just don't want them to overplay their hand and understand where they're at. They were pushing and threatening and, trying to put their foot on their neck, and they turned around and lost housing. So just be careful. That's all I'm saying. Be careful. Now, I do want to show some love to Aaliyah Boston balling out, man. We have to take a look at this footage here, man. Look at this girl going crazy. Now, hopefully I don't catch a copyright, but I have to see this. Aaliyah Boston going to work on Malanga, man. Come on, Malanga. Going to work on a good pick and roll. The Kelsey Plum Boston duo was nice. It was nice, although they lost. Shout out to my Breeze. But hey, Boston was going to absolute work. The seal off, going to work early in the paint. She looked like the veteran here. Beautiful work. Coming down in the lanes. Look at this, sealing off once again. And she does this in the 5v5 too.
And there it was, Kelsey Plum drawing a clear, unmistakable line between Unrivaled's business structure and the WNBA's collective bargaining negotiations. Her words weren't vague or accidental. She said that if a sustainable model can't be found, leadership should be replaced because Unrivaled has supposedly proven it can be done. That wasn't subtle confidence. That was a direct challenge to WNBA leadership, delivered at the most sensitive possible moment. Timing is everything, and the timing here couldn't be more explosive. The CBA deadline is only days away. Negotiations are reportedly stalled, particularly around revenue sharing percentages. Tensions are already high behind closed doors. And now one of the league's biggest stars is publicly pointing to a startup league that's barely months old as evidence that the WNBA's financial concerns are exaggerated. But this comparison collapses under even basic scrutiny. Unrivaled exists in an entirely different operational universe. 6 teams versus 13. 30 players versus more than 140. One arena in Miami versus a nationwide travel schedule. No flights, no hotel logistics, no arena negotiations across multiple ownership groups, and no conflicts with NBA calendars. Yes, Unrivaled reportedly came close to breaking even in its first season, which is genuinely impressive for a startup. But breaking even with 30 players in a single location is not remotely comparable to sustaining a national professional league over a 4-month season. The cost structures aren't even in the same category. The WNBA deals with cross-country travel, varying market conditions, different venue contracts, and significantly larger rosters. Comparing these two models as if they face the same financial pressures isn't just misleading, it's irresponsible when used as leverage in labor negotiations. So when people hear that statement and react with disbelief, it's not because they oppose player compensation. It's because the analogy being used to justify those demands doesn't hold up. You can't build an argument for a billion-dollar ecosystem using a 3-month experiment as your proof point.
But Aaliyah Boston gets those seals off. She get the seal off going, man. Look at this wraparound pass. Beautiful pass. Hayes. I think that was Hayes. Nice little screen. Oh my goodness. Boston going to absolute work out here. Look at the double team block. Bang. Rebound on top of that. Pushing the floor. Man, AB, you play like this in year 3 or year 4 for her. Ooh, look at this hook shot over Malanga. Fam, she hook shot over Malanga. Made a shot over the top blocker in the WNBA on a Cameron Brink. Oh my goodness, man. We need this. Look, if we have a season coming, we need AB balling like this. This the AB we need. An aggressive, I got this, Aaliyah Boston. Man, oh my goodness. The Indiana Fever potential is just ridiculous. Ridiculously out the roof, fam. Now, to close it out on some more good news, we got Enrique in the PEs, fam. I see you, Enrique. I see you. Enrique in the Caitlin Clark PEs, fam. Come on, man. And it's not really a big surprise. Enrique was.
To understand whether Unrivaled is truly sustainable, you have to look beyond statements and examine what actually happened on the court during opening weekend. And from a basketball perspective, there were plenty of positives. Aaliyah Boston was dominant, scoring 17 points with confidence and physicality. Her footwork, post-positioning, and finishing were on full display. That sweeping hook shot over Cameron Brink reminded everyone exactly why she earned Rookie of the Year honors. In the WNBA, Boston has sometimes struggled with consistency, particularly when she becomes too deferential offensively. But in a 3-on-3 environment, there's no hiding, no waiting, no standing in the corner. She's forced to be aggressive, and that pressure unlocked a version of her game that Fever fans have been eager to see more consistently. Paige Buecher's impressed as well, dropping 24 points in her professional debut. Rickea Jackson chipped in 16. Cameron Brink looked healthy and active, pulling down 14 rebounds and showing strong defensive instincts. From a talent standpoint, the league delivered. The players showed up. But here's the uncomfortable part of the conversation. Despite all that star power, viewership didn't follow at the level many expected. The opening games posted respectable numbers for a niche streaming product, but they were nowhere near standard WNBA regular season audiences. That disconnect raises a critical question. If these same players were featured all season in the WNBA and fans aren't following them to Unrivaled in similar numbers, what does that suggest? It hints that individual stars alone may not have been the primary driver of last season's surge. Instead, it may have been the combination of Caitlin Clark's unprecedented popularity, the traditional 5-on-5 format, and the legitimacy that comes with an established professional league. Infrastructure matters. Familiarity matters. And when those elements are removed, even elite talent may not be enough to carry the audience with them.